I have been so late to continue this range. I reviewed the first installment of the 13th Doctor Adventures from Big Finish months ago. Vampire Weekend, written by Tim Foley. Solid start. I enjoyed it. It's sowing some interesting seeds of drama and conflict for the 13th Doctor and Yaz, reprising their roles here at Jodie Whittaker and Mandip Gill respectively. And now we have the second story, The Return of the Doctor, written by Rory Thomas Howes. This story sees the Doctor and Yaz saving a world full of armadillo people. These are the peaceful Zarians, and they come from the planet Velazar. And the Doctor and Yaz, at the beginning of the story, save these people from the Tablonians. They're about to destroy the civilization, but the Doctor, along with the help of a teenage young scientist prodigy of the species called Talpa, played here by Will Kirk, they help to save the day, and the Doctor and Yaz, they leave, presumably thinking that the world has been saved and that their actions have been vindicated. Yaz, however, insists that the Doctor go back to visit Talpa and this world to make sure that they're on the right track, because she doesn't really trust the Doctor to have done the right thing in this adventure. They come back 10 years later. They only wanted to come back a few days later, but the TARDIS, there's a weird fault there. They come back 10 years later, and it turns out that the Doctor and Yaz are now wanted fugitives because of the unforeseen circumstances of the Doctor rescuing the people of Velazar. A really interesting premise. Let's play a clip from The Return of the Doctor.
The Zarians! They're fighting each other!
Doctor.
Why?
Doctor.
Zarians aren't like this. What is it, a virus?
Doctor. Look at this.
Psychic manipulation? Biochemicals? Maybe they've invented social media.
Oi! Look! It's a poster. Wanted. The Doctor. Alive.
Me? What have I done?
Stop right there! Hands on your heads, now!
No chance we're doing a round of head, shoulders, knees and toes.
Telecom Exo Tarv. Tell him we found the fugitive.
Tarv's still the Exol, is he? Oh, well. Wait, fugitive?
Doctor. Look at their eyes.
Clouded over.
Citizens! Our decade of turmoil approaches its long-awaited end. At last, we have the Doctor.
Oh, good. I love an entrance.
Their eyes.
Clouded like the guards. Oi! Fingers!
The sonic screwdriver is a weapon. It will remain with me.
Exalt Tav. We're friends.
Do not interfere, Yasmin Khan. The Doctor has been tried in her absence and found guilty on all counts.
People are going to watch this live stream segment after the fact and have no idea what the live chat is on about. You know, Texas Switch, Paddington Bear. You folks are renegades. You folks cannot be trusted in the live chat. Anyway, so the Return of the Doctor has to see the Doctor and Yaz try and find a way to save this society and try and clear the Doctor's name. As you heard in that clip, she was tried in their absence and they are being sentenced to death, because what essentially happened is that the Doctor and Yaz stopped this crashing spaceship, but something from that spaceship has gotten out and has started infecting people. It started clouding their eyes, literally clouding their vision, making them more aggressive, even though this species, the Zarians, are a peace-loving race who wouldn't say boo to a goose. So I really like the idea, and Vampire Weekend started touching upon this material as well, that the Doctor and Yaz are actually conflicting with each other. The Doctor and Yaz are actually butting heads, and there's some actual tension here. Something that the TV series was sort of alluding to, that the 13th Doctor wasn't opening up to her companions, the 13th Doctor wasn't letting them in on her biggest secrets. It still kind of blows my mind that Ryan, Dan, Graham, and Yaz don't know about the Timeless Child or the Fugitive Doctor by the time the 13th Doctor regenerates, at least to not like a serious degree, which I think was a massive missed opportunity. There's only so much the Big Finish 13th Doctor range can do with that material, but I'm glad that Vampire Weekend and now here The Return of the Doctor is sort of diving into the Doctor's insecurity and how Yaz is reacting to that. So the Doctor and Yaz do manage to escape. They meet a older version of Talpa who is not infected by this this entity that is causing people to become angrier and much more violent with each other and is wanting to blame the Doctor for everything that's gone wrong. But Talpa is still really resistant to the Doctor because she's seemingly abandoned him, and understandably she'll be very, and understandably he's feeling a bit neglected and abandoned by that, and Yaz is sympathetic to that. So Talpa has teamed up with some other people who are immune from this entity that is causing the Zarians to become violent. You've got Azan, played by Charlie Kelly, and you've got Vashir, played by Belinda Stewart Wilson, and these are a really fun pairing. I really liked these characters who are trying to guide and mold Talpa into being the best person that he can be. There's a few contrived moments in the story. For example, these are like armadillo people who are very good at digging, are very good at burying, and for some reason at one point they lock the 13th Doctor up in a prison, which they can easily dig into and dig out of. I thought that was very, very contrived. There's also a slight undercutting of the conflict between the 13th Doctor and Yaz, where Yaz is having a go at the Doctor for abandoning people, for not checking up on them, for not looking back when she goes on all of these adventures, and I thought that was a really good start. But then it turns out that maybe this entity was also influencing Yaz to an extent, and that was a little bit disappointing because I wanted Yaz to come to these conclusions herself. I wanted Yaz to be the instigator for that conflict. And then she could be corrupted later or whatever, but the idea that maybe it was this outside influence that was causing her to distrust the Doctor, that was causing her to ask questions of the Doctor, the person that she's meant to trust the most, and the Doctor wasn't supporting her in that. I thought that was a little bit disappointing, but it was still, for the most part, a strong and compelling story. It does lean hard on the emotions and the sentimentality and the idea of forgiveness and good spirits and all of that good stuff being what fights off the entity. And, I think it's a little bit similar to stories like Closing Time or The Rings of Akatem, which I'm not wholly against, but if stories like that do not appeal to you, then The Return of the Doctor might be a bit of a harder sell. But I do really appreciate what Rory Thomas Howes' script has brought to the table here with the 13th Doctor, and looking deeper at her as a character, as an incarnation, and the securities in doing the right thing, and why she doesn't look back. And she name drops some companions and some other characters who she's lost over the years, and it was a really affecting moment, and I think Jodie Whittaker, Mandip Gill are absolutely terrific here. There's a brilliant set piece, actually, when they are trying to outrun these guards who are digging to chase them, digging and pursuing them. And the Doctor just gives Yaz a straw and is like, okay, we're going to bury you alive and you're going to have to use this straw to breathe. And Yaz is completely against this idea and is completely forced into it. And it's a genuinely tense set piece. And I think Mandip Gill really runs with that material. I think she's great in that scene. And it's a genuinely tense moment. And it is one of those things that is just an extra layer on the 13th Doctor is throwing Yaz into these situations that she's not quite prepared for or is unwilling to fully go along with. Really effective moments. That was a great set piece. Yaz is hearing these whispers in the back of her mind that's telling her to not trust the Doctor, and I really liked how it almost called back to her insecurities and her anxiety in stories like Can You Hear Me? It really reminded me of that dynamic and that exploration of her character, which for me, I think Can You Hear Me is like the definitive Yasmin Khan story. At least for me. Obviously your mileage is going to vary, but I like how Rory Thomas Howes' script is playing with these different dynamics and the insecurities of the 13th Doctor as a Doctor incarnation and Yaz as a companion of this particular Doctor. It's really digging deep to find these moments of subtext and this conflict and this dynamic between this Doctor pairing, and that's really what I want from this Big Finish range. We got it in Vampire Weekend, we're building upon it a bit more in The Return of the Doctor, and I hope that we continue to explore this in future stories like the Christmas special, Lionesses in Winter, by Lisa McMullen, and also the recently announced Ride or Die, written by Roshana Patel. And side note, I've talked about this before, Roshana Patel has had one hell of a year at Big Finish in 2025. Her Dark Gallifrey story, her Fugitive Doctor, Legend of the Baba Yaga story. The only one of her 2025 releases I've not listened to at time of this video is her 8th Doctor Causeway story, but Roshana Patel has had one hell of a year, so the fact that she's also going to be writing for the 13th Doctor for this upcoming range, that has me really, really hyped. Really looking forward to this particular one, which comes out in January 2026. But yeah, The Return of the Doctor, it's not dealing with anything extraordinary in terms of subject matter for the Doctor, at least broadly as a character. It's a little bit like Mind Warp, a little bit like The Face of Evil, or stories like The Long Game and Bad Wolf, stories where the Doctor, in their haste, leaves behind a day supposedly saved, and we look at why they don't look back and why they don't revisit these places as often as they should, and the anxieties that come with that, particularly with the 13th Doctor as a more nervous incarnation. But yeah, it was still a solid hour of audio, a bit of contrived plotting here and there, and a ending, a third act that borders a little bit in sentimentality, but I still enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it, and I think it's on par with Vampire Weekend, maybe a slight improvement, I don't know, I'm not really ranking these or thinking about it too much, but yeah, I had a good time with it. I made a funny comment for your Roshana Patel review you did. Oh, yeah, I saw that you left a comment, didn't you, with a timestamp, because Roshana Patel also wrote The Dissolution of Time. Evil Dalek, what have you commented? 11/16, 11/27, 12. Roshana Patel has had one hell of a year so far. Roshana Patel has had one hell of a year so far. Roshana Patel has had one hell of a year so far. Damn, Roshana Patel has had one hell of a year. She's done... I need a thesaurus.